with Disney, and that is forest conservation and coffee. So you might think, what do forest conservation, coffee, and Disney all have in common? And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. So our founder, Walt Disney, had a deep and strong commitment to conservation and to the environment. And you can see a little bit of this in some of his early work. His film Bambi was deeply rooted in his love of nature and his inspiration for animals and the forests. He also then produced the True Life Adventure series, which was early television that brought nature into people's living room. And even here at Walt Disney World, when he began the development of this big 49 square mile property, a third of the property was set aside during that time for conservation in perpetuity. And so we have what we call the WMCA, the Wildlife Conservation Management Area, in this property as well. Walt's commitment continues today, even with our CEO, Bob Iger, who feels equally passionate and really drives the company to continue Walt's legacy and grow it even further. So you heard a lot from Eric about the past 25 years of the Flower and Garden Festival. Let me tell you about the past 25 years of Disney's nature legacy. And so back in the 90s, the company entered into an agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers, the South Florida Water Management District, and the Nature Conservancy as a part of our responsible development plan to purchase 8,500 acres out in Osceola County that's run by the Nature Conservancy today, and it's called the Disney Wilderness Preserve. That area is now expanded to 11,500 acres, and it took what was overgrazed, overfarmed land in Osceola County and restored it to its natural habitat. That area is open to the public. If you are so inclined to go out there, you can find information about that on the Nature Conservancy website. Then in 1995, the Disney Conservation Fund was formed, and that fund was formed to grant funds to different conservation projects worldwide. So beyond Florida and beyond the United States, out into the rest of the world. I'm proud to say that the fund to date has funded projects in over half the countries in the world. It's funded over $70 million worth of projects and preserving over 400 species. That predated the opening of Disney's Animal Kingdom, where we brought nature into an environment where we could showcase the beauty and the magic of nature for our guests. And from there, the company launched the Disney Nature film label. And that film label has since had 6 releases. You may have seen them: Disney Nature's Earth, Oceans, African Cats, Chimpanzee, Bears, and others. But you may not know that with each film release, there's a partnership with a conservation organization. And through this program, Disney's planted over 3 million trees. We've restored 60,000 acres of the savanna in Kenya, and then protected 40,000 acres of marine land marine habitat and coastal habitat through partnerships with these films. In 2009, our company launched its first set of publicly stated environmental impact reduction targets. And so those are in the areas of water conservation, waste to landfill diversion, and reducing our greenhouse gas emissions impact. This is the area where I do most of my work, and so I think these topics are really, really cool, but they're not necessarily as glamorous as Purple Martins or the land at Epcot or some of the other amazing conservation work that happens around the world. Nevertheless, this type of work helps us as we think about now some of the other projects we want to do. So when we think about our zero net greenhouse gas emissions, we're now incorporating that more and more into visible demonstrations that guests can see. So you'll see at the top photo here, you may not know this, but all of the buses at the Walt Disney World Resort run on a blend of regular diesel and renewable diesel. Renewable diesel is a fuel that's made from used cooking oil and non-consumable food waste that gets combined with the diesel fuel and helps reduce the emissions, the greenhouse gas emissions, from driving the buses around property. And here at Walt Disney World, our bus fleet was the first in the nation to do this, with a fleet of over 384 buses. So, in addition to that, right outside the front door of Epcot here, you'll see this 5-acre Mickey-shaped solar array. Now, from the ground, you can't tell that it's the shape of a Mickey Mouse head, but we have an aerial photo here. You can find it anywhere you want online, and it's also viewable from space. So this is a 5-megawatt solar array, and we have additional solar capacity that we're expanding. But even after we get more and more efficient in our operations, and we get better in terms of the energy sources that we're using, we still have to offset some of our greenhouse gas emissions. So that takes us to the forest. The very best way to offset greenhouse gas emissions is through forest conservation. And so our team at corporate partnered with Conservation International to create a project in the Alto Mayo forest in Peru. Now, this forest is 450,000 acres. It's in the northern part of Peru in the San Martin region. And so I have a video that's going to show you a little bit about the project, and then I'll be back to give you a few more details.
Disney is working to support fair trade coffee farmers through an innovative project in the Alto Mayo forest in the Amazon region of northern Peru. Years ago, the forest was being rapidly cut down to provide more land for agriculture, putting over 3,400 species of birds and plants at risk of losing their home. Protecting the forest conserves wildlife, helps local communities, and combats climate change. Disney joined forces with Conservation International to prevent trees from being cut down in a protected area.
Gracias al apoyo de Disney.
Thanks to Disney's support, Conservation International was able to work closely with Peru's Protected Area Service to work with farmers in sustainable agricultural practices, protecting trees and improving the coffee harvest.
Some of these farmers are part of the Alto Mayo Forest Cooperative. With Disney's support, the farmers have partnered with Joffrey's Coffee and Tea Company to sell their organic and fair trade product and create a sustainably sourced specialty grade coffee. Disney is proud to support the Alto Mayo project and to be the first to feature Joffrey's Peru Alto Mayo coffee at select Walt Disney Parks and Resorts restaurants.
Bien, nos está yendo bien, recibimos.
It's been going great. We're receiving a lot of technical support, and when we harvest our coffee beans, we get a much better price. We can then export our own product.
Through projects like this, Disney is able to support communities and protect the environment for future generations. While enjoying this special collection of coffee on your next visit to Walt Disney Parks and Resorts, you are helping to support families, a forest, and making the world a better place.
So, really cool project. I want to give you a little bit more detail on it. You heard in the video that part of the project was providing technical assistance to the local farmers. So our friends at Conservation International went in and established the project in the Alto Mayo Basin. And the first thing they did was had to give farmers the opportunity to learn a new farming method that would be more sustainable, that would allow them to work within the forest as it existed, as opposed to having moved from place to place to create new farms for themselves. What they did was they taught the practice of shade growing coffee. In addition, they looked at organic fertilizer and organic composting and how to work that into their crop management. They also talked about pruning the plants and how to best care for the plants during the growing process and then once the harvest was complete in order to sustain those plants year over year. And then lastly, they taught about how to monitor disease. There's a disease called coffee leaf rust, or coffee rust leaf, that affects these plants and can take out crops at a time. So they've looked into ways and were able to provide opportunities for the farmers to learn about ways to manage this without chemical pesticides. So after the technical guidance was provided, of course, the farmers needed the plants. So 8 nurseries were established throughout the region to provide free of charge to the farmers the various coffee plants. But in addition to that, the shade-growing plants, to sit side by side with the coffee plants, as well as bamboo to provide fencing for around the different parts of the farm, and then other herbs that are interspersed with the plants for disease control. In addition, then from the nurseries, the coffee farmers began developing their farms, and they were getting great traction here with the farms. But then they began to branch out into other areas of development. So some of the farmers said, hey, what else can we grow? And in some of the land that was less fertile, they began harvesting dragon fruit. That wasn't my stomach grumbling. Some farmers then were able to begin growing orchids as well. And this gentleman is named Norval, and this is my favorite story of expansion from this original project. Norval noticed on the property where they were doing their farming an abandoned structure, and don't know where the structure came from, but knew it wasn't habitable or useful. And so he went to the project leaders and requested resources from the project. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But with these resources, things like wood and tools, he was able to create a small paddock in the forest. And as he was working with the folks from Conservation International, he realized that birding is such a popular topic and that there are such rare birds in this Altamont Basin that if he could create this paddock for people to come and watch the hummingbirds gather around the coffee plantation, that he might have an additional source of income. So working with the group, he was able to establish this and now is not only a coffee farmer, but also an ecotourism leader. So the project is really interesting in the way that it's spreading out to increase its benefit back to the community. In addition to those things, the project also provides health clinics in the area for the community and for the folks who are participating, as well as a free clean cook stove program. And this cook stove then prevents having to chop down trees as often for wood for cooking in the home. So that's a little bit about the expansion of the project beyond the original intention of just coffee farming. So it was interesting. We said, yeah, we've got these coffee farmers and they're making great coffee. And in 2014, I think the farmers recognized just what they had. So their quality of coffee and the abundance of coffee that they were able to produce was much higher than what it had been. And so they formed a co-op in 2014. And when they did that, Disney saw an opportunity because they had enough quantity or a large enough scale that we thought, wow, this would be really great if we could close the loop on this story and bring it back to our guests in our theme parks and resorts. Now, I'm just going to pause and say our chefs do a miraculous job of feeding the millions of people who come through Disney parks and resorts worldwide. So to buy coffee for parks and resorts, it can't just be, we can't just run to the grocery store and pick up a pound and we're good. It has to be a large enough scale. So forming the co-op then allowed us the ability to bring that product here to you and to our theme park and resort guests. So I'm excited to tell you all of the places that this specialty coffee is served. It is served in the Magic Kingdom, Disney's Animal Kingdom, Epcot, and the Hollywood Studios here at Walt Disney World, as well as all of the resorts you see listed here. And in addition to that, it's served at our in some of the resorts and in the parks at the Disneyland Resort in Anaheim. I'm also thrilled to tell you that you will be taking home some of this coffee with you later today. So I hope you'll have an opportunity to enjoy it when you get back home. So it's a really cool project to me. I love the fact that our company, in an effort to be better stewards of the environment for ourselves, found a way to do that and to provide, to protect forests and to provide a better livelihood for people in a community that is now thriving. And in addition to that, it also is a project that helps to protect this golden-tailed woolly monkey that is critically endangered and native to that area. So thank you guys very much for letting me share this project with you.